cheers to another episode of the Weinnotes Podcast. I'm your guide, AJ Weinzettel, on this journey of stories showcasing the people behind the wonderful world of wine, where we dive into conversations ranging from terroir, viticulture, to favorite music, superpowers, and more. Please enjoy this episode of the Weinnotes Podcast. Seth, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Honored.
You know, driving out here, the spring is out, and I know most people are like, yes, it's spring and it's summertime, but you like August, because that's like when fall starts, and you really enjoy that time of year for kicking off.
And I like any time of year. You know, you don't have. One of the reasons that the Willamette Valley is what it is because it rains for 8 to 9 months, right? That's what makes things verdant, green, right?
Right.
And then, but it's also the lack of sun that makes the, July, August, September so remarkable for people that live here because it's you learn to appreciate the sun when it's so green and or so gray and wet so much of the year. But
I agree.
But yeah, I really do. I love making wine, and the season of late August, September, October is I get juiced.
Yeah.
The dopamine, I don't know, all of the adrenaline. I love it.
I can only imagine.
But
yeah.
No, but the process, like right now, I just finished bottling and I'm shipping, and it's this. The wine world, it seems like it's all about making the wine, right? That's what kind of gets a lot of the attention, right? And farming, right? But there's this other aspect, which is what the business is, which is sales. And so that's what I'm in right now.
I can only imagine. It's that time of the year.
Yeah.
Shall I pour us a little bit of a blind wine? I always tell everybody, you can say whatever you want.
I will.
But there's zero pressure. You can say it's yummy, you can say it's yucky, and we can just go on. Or if you want to dissect it, you're more than willing, yes. And I always try to find some sort of connection with the wine that I bring to you. So I don't know. I think I did a decent job here. I know that not too long ago I interviewed Thomas.
Yes, I saw that.
And I felt so bad that I didn't pour Chardonnay, and I was like, ugh. But I couldn't mess.
Noir, right?
Yeah, I poured him.
I can't remember what it was.
It was French Evening Land Pinot Noir.
Right.
Yeah. So I made sure I poured you a Chardonnay, because if I poured.
Thomas he's a good friend, and it's someone that is very serious about Chardonnay, which is rarer in this state.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean this feels immediately like Chardonnay.
Well, we'll immediately tell you it is a Chardonnay. To bring anything else than a Chardonnay for you would be just wrong.
I don't know. I'm not a big drinker these days. I used to taste a lot. I used to drink a lot. And that was before I found this focus on Willamette Valley Chardonnay. And yeah, over the last, this is year 11, 2024 is year 11 of Morgen Long. Certainly over the last decade, I have really honed in on 10 or 15 producers of Chardonnay from around the world. But there's a number of other grapes and certainly producers that don't make Chardonnay that do inform what I do, and I appreciate tracking what they do. And,
Right.
It's Syrah. It's Northern Rhone Syrah. There's some Italian producers, there's some German producers, so
Right.
it's not just
Right. No.
Chardonnay in my cellar.
Yeah.
But so yeah, getting back to this, it feels like either a warmer vintage in the Willamette Valley. It could be a region south of here, Napa, Sonoma, but it could be Burgundy. The thing about Chardonnay is there isn't like there's what I see is that there's a lot of articles written about like what is the style of Chardonnay in the Willamette Valley, right? And it's like there's a multitude of styles, right? There's different ways in which you can work with the grapes in the vineyard to change the rapidity of ripeness and the kinds of chemistry that you will have. And then, of course, there's different ways of vinification, picking, pressing, élevage that, right? In a place as small as Burgundy, right, there's producers that work one way, and then there's producers that work very different ways. So
right. Yeah, no, it is interesting to just even in the Willamette Valley to see the different styles that everybody has. And I thoroughly enjoy diving into all the different possibilities.
Just at the Chardonnay celebration, I didn't get away from the table to taste, but I'm sure that event shows just like the breadth of style.
Yes, very much so. Very much.
Which is this thing where, like the word terroir is so often the idea encapsulated in that word focuses on these like non-human aspects, right?
Right.
But the human aspect of the idea behind terroir is it's like the thing that no one really wants to talk about, that no vineyard would be what it is without human beings with an intention and with action shaping
what is there.
Right. Every month of the year.
Yep.
Maybe not every month, but and then once in the winery too,
Yeah. No.
So, but yeah, this wine feels generous. Like there's acidity, but it isn't like razor acidity.
Right.
So
right.
Mallow, but even still like on the kind of like more generous side.
Right.
So, it could also be age, like showing a little bit of age.
Yeah.
Definitely some oak.
And we can, at the end, I'll reveal what it is. And kind of.
Yeah, it feels well done.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. There's a lot of well done Chardonnay here in Oregon. Oh, one of I was kind of looking forward to watching you go through and dissect, the blind wine, because you were taking the International Sommelier Guild,
Yeah.
and that was taught by Erica Landon, who's at Walter Scott right now. And she convinced you to do harvest, which I'm curious how that came about, but also on that very first day of harvest, you showed up in loafers. And I'm curious, did you ever circle back around with Erica and say, why didn't you tell me not to wear loafers?
No, I circle back with Erica all the time. I see her, her and Ken frequently. No, so the deal is that I worked in restaurants from the time I was 15 until I was 27, 28. And
Right.
that's when there's this 2008, 2009, moved from Eugene to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of interviews with great restaurateurs. In the summer of 2009, just wasn't many opportunities. It was kind of a tough economic period.
Of course.
And at the same time, I was asking Erica a lot of questions about vinification in this ISG program, which is, not really focused on vinification, right? I mean,
Right.
Of course, we're talking about winemaking, but it's sommelier study, right? So it's much more focused on service and
Present.
yeah.
Right.
So she was just encouraging to not be so intent on restaurants. Like,
Right.
maybe you should think about doing harvest, right? I was
Yeah.
asking her for any recommendations about restaurants that I could interview at, 'cause she was at 1001.
Right.
And so, she encouraged me to think about harvest. Kind of, she's like fielding these questions about winemaking, about vinification, that was just, I think she saw maybe a level of interest to go deeper than what ISG
Was offering.
was focused on. And
Right.
but it also just made sense. So the first harvest, I didn't really know what I was getting into. And I didn't, I didn't know that you were supposed to wear blendstones.
Well,
Not supposed to, but yeah, like, I just
right. No,
I just wore what I thought was on the kind of more professional side of things.
of course.
Yeah, there's this photo of me doing a punch down in these loafers. It's hilarious. But yeah,
Right. And of course, you want to show up first day of harvest, being as professional as you can, wanting to make a great impression. Of course, you want to do that. And I
look back on that. I see that photo every once in a while, and I chuckle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first harvest was at Canis Feast with Patrick Taylor, and it was a great crash course in what harvest is. And after that, I knew right away that there was, if I could stay out of restaurants, that being in wineries was the thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you got the chance to, go do harvest, like the first year in France. And for some reason, they wouldn't let you touch any of the whites.
That's normal. I mean, it's like, look, but yeah, you're correct. Like, flash forward to 2012, I got to Meursault, and I had a number of years of experience, but I wasn't even close to being the most experienced.
Right.
I wasn't the least experienced, but what a lot of wineries need help with is red wine vinifications. white wine vinifications are a lot less involved. And I think that there's a lot more importance on the press, right? Whereas wineries need a lot of interns for red wine, right? You got to like stand on the sorting table. You got to sort all those grapes.
Right.
You got to do punch downs. You got to do pump overs. So, but yeah, that first year at Desmontis in 2012, I was not the intern that assisted on the white wine program.
Right.
But at that time, I think I was excited to be in Burgundy because I had lived in the Willamette Valley since I was a young kid, and Pinot Noir. I was thinking Pinot Noir, like I'm in Burgundy, great. And so that first year at Desmontis, I was just happy to be doing anything.
Of course, right.
There's this guy, Andre, an Italian, and he was the guy that assisted on the whites. And he was the guy with the most amount of experience. So, but over that first year at Desmontis, that first harvest at Desmontis, I very quickly figured out that I enjoyed drinking white wines more than red wines. And I began to see this opportunity that I then took a year later to just like focus 100% on Chardonnay. So yeah, that first vintage at Desmontis in 12, it was just sorting, punch downs, pump overs. It was building stillage just like you see here, filling Pinot Noir barrels. And then, but yeah, at the end of that first year, I made sure that I could come back the next year and work on the white program.
Yeah.
Which is what I did.
Yeah, no, and that's an amazing story. And I was, from my research, that first year, even though you weren't allowed to touch the whites, you were opening up as many white wines as you could just to get that experience and to taste it and just engulf yourself in that whole process.
Yeah, and I mean, like during sommelier study, previous harvests, there was a lot of really noteworthy white Burgundy that I was a part of enjoying. But yeah, the lunches and the dinners in 2012, it was like, it would kind of go in a round robin where different interns would pick the wine from the cellar for lunch or dinner. And usually there'd be a red and a white. But yeah, after a couple times of me picking the wines, I just started picking 2 whites. And then there was, a lot of weekends where we'd go to lunch. We wouldn't be working. We'd go to lunch, and when you're in Burgundy and you see Côte d'Or or Ramonet or Ravenot or Pierre-Yves or Lafon, and they're priced for the French market, oftentimes it seems so cheap in comparison. So yeah, there was this place in Ladois, Cerny called Auberge La Miotte that I really loved going to for lunch on weekends. One of the owner's girlfriends, or excuse me, I have that backwards. One of the women that owned or worked there, her boyfriend was one of Koch's brokers. So there was always a lot of Koch on the list for nothing.
Wow.
So we were regulars there. They had this amazing duck confit menu.
Right.
So, but yeah, the time in Meursault between 2012 and 2013, it changed my entire life, because up until 2012, me being from the Willamette Valley and getting so interested in wine and like wanting to make it my life's work.
Right.
Pinot Noir.
Of-
Right.
Right.
And so this shift happened being in Meursault, where it's just like, I just started seeing how seriously the white wines were considered there. Right. This village is, that is what they grow white wine.
Right.
From Chardonnay. And
Right.
so by the end of those two vintages, it was just like a no-brainer for me to just take the blueprint of Meursault and apply it here.
Right. I could.
So that village is very special to me. And yeah, my life changed.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, in reading, seeing that what was it? It was 7 harvests in 5 years. Just going around the world chasing harvests. I mean, that's remarkable just within itself.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I'm a big fan of wanting. I think that the idea behind wanting is it leads you, especially if you can make that what you aim at something that is positive, right?
Right.
And it can lead you to great places, great things.
Right.
So once I found wine and once I started working harvests, it was just, I mean, from the inside out, it wasn't remarkable at all, because I was just like, I was just going after harvests.
Right.
And this work didn't pay very well.
But the experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, like I said earlier, I mean, I get juiced to go do this work.
Right.
So yeah, there was a couple, there was just one year where I got 3 harvests in, but yeah, 9, 10 in the Willamette Valley, 11 was Central Otago, Santa Cruz Mountains, and then back to the Willamette Valley.
Wow.
And then 12 and 13 were in Burgundy. And then 2014, I started the project.
That is quite something.
But yeah. And then, the first 5 years of the project were amazing. I was naive, and I learned very quickly that I didn't actually learn how to make wine those first 7 harvests. I got the framework of what it was to work in wineries.
Right.
But the first 5 vintages, that's when I learned how to make wine.
Well, trial by fire. I mean, that's how I learned.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like when I started this podcast.
Practice.
Exactly. If I was to have done this, if I would have sat down with you 2 years ago to do this podcast, I'd be like, nervous as all get out.
Right.
But to sit down after all this practice now, yeah. Am I still a little nervous? Of course I am, but not as nervous, and just enjoy and relax and just take it in.
Yeah. I mean, I started at a good time, 14, 15, 16. The first 3 vintages were easy. in comparison to 11, 12, 13. Right? 11, very late. 12, easier, I think, better than 11 and 13 in terms of ease. 13, very difficult.
Well, I mean, 13 was the year of the rains.
Yeah. Well, there's always, not always, but
Well, it was like monsoon raining. Yeah.
I am. That's why I mentioned, like, I started at a good time. I mean, 14, 15 were both dry, hot years.
Right.
So if there was difficulty, it was picking early enough.
Right.
And potentially not dropping as much fruit as you would think, because a lot of it actually got ripe, even if yields were a little bit high.
That's very cool.
But yeah, the first 3 years of Morgen Long were made with the same kind of intentionality as I currently work with, but with less manipulation or intervention. I mean, if I go back and look at what I did in 14, 15, 16, a lot of the mechanisms of vinification were similar, but my goals were to make wine with nothing added, nothing taken away, as little sulfur as possible. I mean, if I go back and look at it, really, it's like I was trying to make natural wine.
Right.
And the vintages were good for that. 17 was a much more difficult year. It was a year that was warm to hot, and it seemed as if, looking back at 14 and 15, I think that there was a desire from a farming standpoint to potentially hang a little bit more fruit to balance the heat. But then it just got cold. And then I think what happened was there was a little bit more fruit than what people had thought at lag phase.
Right.
And September was just it ripening just slowed, and there was rain. So 17 was more difficult, and it was a great year for me because it offered me the first opportunity for me to fall on my face.
That's how you learn, right there.
And that, yeah, I look back out in 2017 and with a lot of, what's the word? I'm just happy that a lot of my bad ideas were destroyed. So I was happy for 2017 was great because it was challenging in a very different way than 14, 15, 16 were fairly easy vintages.
Right.
And then 17 presented some challenges that really allowed me to take a step back and look at what my ideas were, what worked, what didn't work. And so there was some small changes starting in 18 and 19 that in hindsight they were just like really good practices that I didn't implement, that I,
right.
Right.
But no, that's,
but, taking a step back, like the way that I've worked with Chardonnay from the beginning hasn't really changed. It's more been like small iterative changes, refinements. And alongside that has been just, it's just practice, practice, practice.
Of course.
And as I've gotten more contracts and as I've gotten more fruit from different sites, right, it's allowed me to run trials. And so the winery work, September, October, it's just, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the details and the opportunity to split a press in two and to treat the same lot in a couple different unique ways and just, learn. So, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of my career, is just small iterative changes.
Right. Well, it keeps the mind active. I mean, you need that challenge, you need that struggle to even keep it interesting.
Yeah, well, but also every year there's, the weather, the acid, the phenolics, things are never the same.
Correct.
Right. And so the opportunity to look at just small iterative changes every year, you never know what you'll be able to utilize a couple of years out when you are presented with a harvest situation or a vinification situation that's like, oh.
Right. No, that makes sense.
So what my project, being 100% focused on Willamette Valley Chardonnay, has done for me is it constrains my vision. So during harvest, I don't have a whole lot of different things to do, right? It's rinse and repeat.
Right.
But inside of that portal, right, where you there's just this constraint, it's just the Willamette Valley, it's just Chardonnay, but inside of that portal, there's this world where
you can explore and do whatever it is that you want to do.
Totally, and that it's as much as I have a very specific and fairly rigorous set of procedures and techniques, I'm always playing around, right?
Right.
And I love it. I mean, it's
Well,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I don't blame you. In 2013, when you actually started to do, your own label. 14. Okay. All right. 14. You've been chasing harvest, and, you have, your mom, also going through a tough time in her life. And she would seem to play such a strong role in your life. And also in that time, 2014, Oregon isn't known for Chardonnay. Did the two of you talk any about, what you were talking, coming about doing? And was she a sounding board or anything for you?
No, I mean, my mom and I talked a lot, and more often than my father and I. But no, when I picked Chardonnay, after 2013, it was just this is what I'm going to do.
Focused on it.
Yeah. And there has never been a moment since where I'm well, maybe.
That's fair.
So the things my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2013. And so coming back to Willamette Valley and starting the project in 14 was, like that diagnosis was, it definitely like lit a fire underneath me to make sure that I could present my mom with the thing that I was going to do.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, she was a big supporter, but I came from a great family. Both my mom and my dad did an amazing job. And they just let, in a lot of ways, it just kind of like let me find my way.
Right.
And they were available. And yeah, I mean, the project has been so good for me because it's not been easy, right? The easy part is making wine.
Right. As you've mentioned, selling wine is the hard part.
Selling wine is the hard part. Pricing wine.
It's also difficult.
It's the thing where like, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out what you're worth.
Right.
Right. And then so the challenging part about the project has more been moving through, the different vintages with their, some vintages were easier, some vintages were harder, but the creative cycle of like putting everything into these different wines and then taking them to market and,
it's
kind of like, as you mentioned, like the state and the Willamette Valley has not really been known for Chardonnay. I think that's changing. I think it has changed.
Yes.
But yeah, kind of like you're like standing on this like mountain, so to speak, like, and people are like, but it's not Pinot Noir. Right?
Well,
and so I think what this project has taught me is how important it is to self-validate, right? To not seek external validation for the work, but to find validation in the work.
Correct.
Right? To look at yourself in the mirror and feel accomplished.
And
not because of the pricing or the sales or the press or any of that. Like none of that matters. What matters is like how proud are you of the work that you do?
Exactly.
Right? Of the ways that you handle your relationships with farmers and with the people, the businesses that you are selling to, that you are the clientele that you're hosting, right? But also like all of that aside, like how proud are you of the wine?
Of course.
Right. And so that is the most remarkable thing about this project to me has been finding a outlet or a path to discovering how amazing it can be when you don't need external validation for what you do.
That is a remarkable trait, a remarkable value to learn self-validation internally.
Yeah, which like especially for creatives,
right?
And it doesn't matter whether it's wine or whatever, right? It's like I like what I have found is as I have gotten to a point where I am really proud of what I do, the external validation comes. It comes when you already have it,
Right.
you know? But
Right.
when you don't have it inside, sometimes it can be harder to see outside.
Right. So I work in software
Okay.
and currently working on a project, and in presenting it to people, I'm like, all right, I want you to do this. And they're like, okay, that was easy. I'm like, okay, now that you've done this, do this. And I give them zero direction, zero guidance. And to see their faces light up, that I'm giving them empowerment to do something that, most people is like, oh my gosh, I need customer support to help do this. It is an amazing thing to see. So I can only imagine when you had that internal validation, and then you get a 100-point score on your Omni. I think it was 2019.
No, it's 21.
21. I'm sorry.
No worries.
That had to be like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Thank you. And there's this, Stuart Smiley skit on Saturday Night Live.
Okay, right.
You remember that one?
It's been a little while.
He's got this this sweater, and he's looking himself in the mirror.
Right.
He's like, "You're good enough." You don't remember that one?
I hate to admit I've watched some, but
this is like old Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Like, anyway, that that exercise of looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself that you love yourself, that you're proud of yourself. I think it trains you to learn how to value yourself. So this 100-point wine that Audrey Frick gave last, so it was 2021 ex Omni, was one of the first 2 Chardonnays in the history of Oregon. It was amazing. And when I look back at the way that I have worked since 2014, I feel like I've been making wines, like the way that I view the way that I have worked is like, that's what I've been trying to do since the very first vintage.
right.
Right. So I think that, it was cool to get that external validation, but again, it's like internally, I've been looking at most of the wines that I make most years, not putting that those numbers, right?
Right.
But just on one level, being very critical of the work that I do.
Right.
But on another level, just being really proud at the same time.
Right.
So, I mean, and I think that those two go hand in hand. Like, when people tell me that they don't like something about this wine that I made or that, it's like, don't worry. I mean, I've already hated that wine way more than you.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I have been extremely self-critical of the work, but at the same time, always look for the things that I can be proud of.
And you have a lot to be proud of.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And I saw your philosophy behind your logo. And then I saw that your dad is also a poet. And to read what you have about your logo and energy, You say that my idea was to encompass the sun and all the elements that coalesce on a micro and macro level. I worked with a label designer who does labels for Teutonic wines. She took my vision, did the original design that had the sun in the middle and 4 quadrants representing different elements. Energy emanated off these elements. She then had the idea to cut the design in half, and that really worked. And even since 2016, you continue to tweak that design.
Yeah, it has the most recent vintage 2022 has reached this point where the iteration has stopped.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, for the first basically 10 years, there was a lot of me wanting to represent different nuances that I saw from the vineyard, the vintage, the wine on the label. Right. There was like a rainbow, if you will, of different colors, different vineyards, different vintages. And yeah, this woman, Sarah Regan, she's very talented. She does some killer labels for Barnaby and Olga. Much more playful and creative than, I think she has like full creative control for them.
Right.
For me, it's like I gave her a very specific idea, which she then, what she created was better than it was amazing.
It is amazing.
And so, yeah, the new label, the 2022s, it's the same label. It's the same color. There's no changes. Everything is the exact same.
Right.
Which, now makes sense to me. Right? It's like I make Willamette Valley Chardonnay. There should be this consistency to the label.
Right.
Whereas for the first 7 vintages, I really loved the idea of showing a slightly different shade because the wines were different. So
that makes sense.
But yeah, the idea now is I don't want to spend time with Illustrator, and which I don't know how to use to begin with, and like when I work with my label, with my printer, I don't want to spend time being like, all right, Pantone 605C here, Pantone 302B.
Right.
It's like
you got to get all the RGBs.
It's like but that's kind of, I get to make these choices. Right. So, but yeah, the new label is, I'm really excited about it. It's just really simple.
Yeah, it is really simple, but it's also gorgeous and elegant, and
nothing's changed, but everything's changed.
Right.
But
no, it is gorgeous, and I am a fan of the Omni Vineyard myself. Another winery out here, Corollary Wines.
Yep.
When they when they announced that they were releasing a Blanc de Blanc from that vineyard, I was like, I don't even need to taste that wine. Can I have a half a case, please?
Yeah.
I just knew what was there.
Yeah. Craig Williams is, I think that he is one of the most important farmers to plant a vineyard in the Willamette Valley. Right, this guy worked at Joseph Phelps for 40 years. He still lives in Santa Elena. But his retirement was to plant Pinot Noir and Chardonnay here in the Willamette Valley.
Right.
And And he does things a little bit differently than kind of like the zeitgeist of how people tend to plant.
Right.
So yeah, ex novo, ex omni, really amazing vineyards.
They are. And when I interviewed Thomas, he said maybe kind of gave a hint of like this Blue Heron vineyard.
Yeah.
I mean,
different genius created Blue Heron. That was Kevin Chambers.
right.
So that's another really, really amazing farmer who has now since retired.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, planted Resonance and then Kusa. And advised Peter Dinsdale and his family on Blue Heron, which, yeah, South Salem Hills.
Yeah.
And it's 55 acres of Chardonnay, maybe more.
Yeah, it was like a blueberry farm, and it's like at 1,000 feet or something.
Well, no, so I don't think that so Blue Heron is Peter Dinsdale is a fruit farmer,
Okay.
right? So they farm hundreds, maybe thousands of acres, and they farm a lot of blueberries.
Okay.
But the site where Blue Heron, where the Chardonnay is, I don't think that was ever.
Okay. I don't know much about it, so
Yeah, and I don't know. But just intuitively, I would think that if you're farming blueberries, you want them on the valley floor.
correct.
Probably not at 1,000 feet.
Probably not. No.
But yeah, this site is really, it's noteworthy. It's different than ex Omni. Not as much clonal diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Much higher. I mean, ex Omni is 475 to 515 feet on top of a ridge. Blue Heron there's a lot of different aspects. There's a couple bowls. There's some slopes. It's a much more varied site. It's much larger.
Right.
But the first fruit that I got from Blue Heron was in 22. And yeah, 22. And it was I just got a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was enough it was compelling enough for me to go back to Peter and triple the contract.
Wow.
And the 23 is really, really compelling. I mean, it's exciting in the cellar. And yeah, I mean, I don't think that I've doubled this year, but almost. So it's a site that I'm really excited about.
I can't wait.
And part of the reason that it's exciting is mostly that it's a Chardonnay vineyard. Right. So it's not that it's a vineyard with Chardonnay planted. It's a vineyard that's just Chardonnay.
Which you just don't see. I mean,
I think that there is a little bit of Pinot Noir there. They have like an acre of Pinot Noir. But what Kevin Chambers advised Peter Dinsdale on was Chardonnay.
wow.
So, I mean, it could be the first vineyard that is just Chardonnay. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's certainly blocks. I mean, Seven Springs South Block, that's just Chardonnay.
Right.
And I don't get out a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not really up to date with what's going on. But yeah, Blue Heron is noteworthy.
I can't wait to check out the Blue Heron 22 and the 23. That sounds...
So 22 Blue Heron got blended into Willamette.
Okay.
And 23 Blue Heron will probably be like the backbone of Willamette Valley.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I approach single vineyard designates is, I mean, I think that it's easy to just like single vineyard designate everything.
Right.
But I don't know that that's the right mentality. I think that what I see is that here in the Willamette Valley, there's a lot of, I think that is what we need to focus on actually, is like not the name of the state, right? Not Oregon Chardonnay.
Right.
Because Oregon Chardonnay it doesn't have the geographical delimitation, which is where the quality is. When people talk about Oregon wine, we mean Willamette Valley.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
But we don't use that specificity. And so where I'm trying to connect this back to the single vineyard is like, I think that Willamette Valley Chardonnay, just like that bottling, is maybe more important than these really amazing single vineyards. So that we as a valley can put wines out that are specific about this place. So I mean, look, there are amazing vineyards that I work with that I can't blend all the wine away.
Right.
Like Omni, I always blend some into the Willamette Valley or some into Eola Amity, but a Willamette Valley Chardonnay is, I think that is for me, that's the most important bottling that I do, the blend of the cellar. And so finding sites like Blue Heron that are 1,000 feet in South Salem Hills, so Willamette Valley AVA, not in the
Eola Amity, right?
AVA, right? It's really exciting to see that there's still sites that are very, very noteworthy. So yeah, the Blue Heron is amazing, and I thanks to Thomas,
right,
and Kevin. I think both Kevin was like, you should work with Peter, and also like Lingua Franca has a lease on basically that whole vineyard. So
right.
But yeah, that site is special.
That sounds.
But really, I think that there's a lot. There's a lot of great sites for Chardonnay, and most sites that had Chardonnay planted back in the 60s or 70s or 80s, they're probably good sites for Chardonnay, but maybe one of the reasons why they aren't known for Chardonnay is just there wasn't enough planted. Right. And so the attention was given to what was planted, which
is Pinot Noir. Correct.
Right. And
yeah.
So one of the things that I think has changed over the last 10 years is that farmers are, I don't know whether it's like winemakers wanting more Chardonnay, farmers planting more Chardonnay, but it doesn't really matter why or where it started, right? But the reality is that there are a lot more vineyards with a lot more Chardonnay planted intentionally. And since the intention is there to plant and farm, more attention is given, and then surprise, surprise, the quality in the bottle is
through the roof.
Yeah.
And just even sitting here today with you, you've done a lot of inner work, and you exude gratitude through and through. Was there like an event or something that like evoked that journey of finding your inner self?
No, I mean, I think that it's just who I am. I mean, it's like, I keep a gratitude journal. I think it's part of one of the, it's one of, like, there was a couple tools that I found that, like, looking at yourself in the mirror work, right? Like spending a few minutes a day.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually not that.
Well, I mean, when
it's like, so yeah, there was some there, I guess I met some cool people that have encouraged me to take myself seriously, to be grateful. So yeah, the gratitude work it's just a really simple practice to like write what you're grateful for every day.
Yeah, it is wonderful practice. I completely agree.
So these days I'm actually not keeping a gratitude journal, but I do think about what I'm grateful for most days, and I think that it's been helpful for me in terms of finding the thing to focus on. In the winery, like I mentioned earlier, most years there are barrels or lots that I'm really critical of,
right,
inwardly, and sometimes outwardly. And I think it's really easy to be critical. I think it's really easy to be critical of yourself, critical of others. But it's a slippery slope, because it's easy to just complain.
Very easy to complain.
It's easy to complain to yourself about all of the things that are wrong, right? About this wine, about your life, about the country, about the world. It's just like,
it's just out there. All you got to do is just
Gratitude is the other side. Like, find the thing that you can be grateful for, right?
Right.
Even though, like, you missed that pick, and you shouldn't have used that barrel, or you stirred too much, or you didn't stir enough, or what have you.
Right.
So the gratitude work is like finding the little specks of gold, so to speak, in the mud of complaints, which, I mean, I try not to complain, but I catch myself.
Well, I think we all do. And I have a 15-year-old daughter, and normally when I say that, people are like, oh, but I'm like, no, I love it. Just even like last night, we were, it's nice outside. We got a little tabletop solo stove, and, little fire. And then just out of the blue, she was like, my Spotify subscription, has ran out. And I'm like, oh, well, how do you plan on, renewing it? And she was like, well, I'm just going to ask my papa to see if, I'm like, well, but how are you going to manage money? And like, we had this whole discussion, and then I started to direct her toward a rabbit hole of like, you could make your own money. And just
that's when I started working, 15.
Exactly. And, I treasure that so much. And, in 2, 3, 4 years, I'll still have interactions like that with her, but I'm just holding on to all those nuggets that I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's this like small business ownership has been the best thing for me.
Right.
Being solely responsible for my well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's good.
Well, you have done one hell of a job.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I'm still, there are, there's a long list of things that I want to improve upon. It's, it's never ending, right? It's like you bottle and then you release and then you sell. And then, before you know it, it's time to make wine again. And it's just, but like, yeah, I keep a list of things that I am proud of, that I'm grateful for, but I also keep basically on that same list, like, these are areas of sales and vinification, of working with farmers that I really want to refine.
Right.
And so yeah, it's not just like small business ownership. It's not just, it's probably not just small business ownership. There isn't a point where you can just like relax, right? It's like constantly improve upon, be proud of the things that are going well.
Right.
Be grateful for the things that are going well. And at the same time, be like chopping wood and carrying water and sweeping and tidying up and not being too hard on yourself, but also, like at least for me, I set the standard. I mean,
right.
No one else is.
Right.
I think in a lot of other wineries, there's, multiple people, multiple chefs in the kitchen,
right,
multiple standards. I don't know what that's about. I mean, this is,
yeah,
I can't even imagine working for someone else at this point.
Yeah. I completely understand that.
And, but yeah, there's every once in a while, I sometimes I wish that I didn't have to make all of the decisions, do all of the work. But then I think those are the moments where like, I'm just tired and I just need a nap.
Yeah. Just a little bit of a reset.
Yeah. And then, the next morning I wake up and I'm like, all right, yeah.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that a lot.
So, but yeah, I'm this valley, this industry, the farmers, the distributors, the importers, the clients, the critics, the podcasters, the writers. I mean, it's the other winemakers. It's really cool. What is happening with the Willamette Valley, and especially with Chardonnay. But that's, I'm biased.
I can agree.
I mean, I think that the wine quality across the board in the valley is getting better.
So much better. I agree.
I mean, not to say that the wines didn't used to be great, because I don't know, starting in the 80s. I mean, that's when did DDO?
Ooh, I don't know that.
In 80s.
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
So the quality potential here has been high.
Right. And just like last year, I had an 88 Pinot from Adelsheim,
mm-hmm.
and it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the difference between like the 80s and now is there are more people that are definitely more people, and everybody does help each other out. So everybody is already setting that bar. And if you're below that bar, you're just kind of left behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the there's never been a time. I mean, this is a golden age in a lot of ways. If you have the right set of skills, a little bit of money, the right desire, work ethic, I mean, you can go out and find some grapes. You can find.
Yep.
There's never been more wineries. There's
Yep.
never been more places where you can contract space. Right? There's never been more vineyards growing more grapes.
Yep.
It's never been easier to sell, right? Anyone can get a website.
Yep.
There's never been more restaurants. There's never been more wine buyers interested in more diverse styles, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, this is a great time. It's a
I
great time for the Willamette Valley.
I agree. I have a fun question for you. Did your parents ever find out that you stole like their Trader Joe's wine out of their cellar?
I mean, I'm sure that they knew. Yeah, I think, I don't have kids, so, but I think that maybe kids think that their parents don't know,
But their parents
but
know.
they always know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we've ever talked about that, but I'm sure that they knew. The wine was not a big part of my family. My parents liked wine, but they didn't drink every night. They didn't, and wine was kind of like it wasn't a big investment for them.
Right.
But yeah, they always had like a mixed case or two. But yeah, and I don't even remember what those wines were. They weren't great.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was just curious. I mean, I ran across that little tidbit, and I had to ask.
Yeah.
I have some rapid fire questions, and then I'll reveal the blind wine. I'll get you out of here.
Cool.
Who is your favorite artist to listen to during harvest?
It changes every year, right? Last year was Hermanos Gutierrez.
I've never heard of him, but okay.
Yeah, he's like Swiss Ecuadorian.
Okay.
There's these two brothers, and it like grew up between Ecuador and Switzerland.
Wow.
And amazing guitar.
I will have to check that out.
Yeah. But yeah, it changed. Just I go through phases. But last year, Hermanos Gutierrez.
All right. Favorite indulgent food?
Indulgent.
Peanut butter pretzels?
No, for me, I'm eating. Comté. It's the best cheese. It's the only cheese.
Okay. That I can understand that.
Yeah,
So
36-month aged Comté.
do you get your cheese from Cowbell?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best place.
I live a few blocks away, and yeah, that's a great. I love that business.
Oh, it's so dangerous. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, to know the capital T truth.
Wow. Harvest notes. Are they digital or handwritten?
Both. But yeah, it's anything that's handwritten gets
Digitized.
Yeah, I have a file that is it's this like master Chardonnay document.
Wow.
That just, I just keep adding to it. And then I go back and look at what, the debrief from the previous vintage with the questions that I want to answer the next vintage. And right. So
I love it. Last book you read. It could be audible, it could be physical, or it could be like podcast.
Yeah. I don't get the audio books. Here, yeah, my opinion is that audiobooks are not actually reading. But the last book that I read is called The Authentic Reactionary. It's about this Colombian author, Nicolas Gomez de Villa, who's an aphorist. Like aphorisms are you take a big idea and you make it concise and dangerous, right? Like big ideas,
right?
Condensed to the most clear kernel of essence.
I will have to check that out. That sounds really interesting.
I can't remember the translator, Ramon Alani. Okay. Yeah. Nicolas Gomez de Villa, The Authentic Reactionary.
I will check that out. All right. Shall I reveal a blind wine?
Sure.
Okay.
Willamette?
Yes, definitely Willamette. And, I always try to find something that has a connection, and I know that you were, making fruit at Lingua Franca, and, you and Tamal are, pretty good buds.
Yeah.
And so the 2017 Bunker Hill Chardonnay, just seemed absolutely the perfect choice.
Yeah, 17, tough vintage. This is a great site. 12%.
Yeah.
Close with punch cork, not Dion.
I don't remember. I had too many other things going on this morning. I didn't pay that close of attention.
Yeah, good job, Tamal.
Yeah, he does such a great job. That's all the questions that I have. I mean, do you have any questions or anything for me as we wrap up?
Nope.
No. Well, I really appreciate, you taking the time today. This has been an absolute honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this flavorful voyage through the world of wine on the Weinnotes Podcast. I've been your host and guide, AJ Weinzettel, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing these captivating stories with you. But alas, like the last sip of a fine vintage, our time together must end. But don't fret, my wine-loving friend. The cellar doors of the Weinnotes Podcast will always remain open, waiting for you to return and explore new conversations, stories, and musings from the captivating people behind the magical world of wine. Before you go, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and don't forget to leave a sparkling 5-star review to help spread the word. Until our glasses clink again, remember to savor life's moments and let the spirit of wine and camaraderie linger on your palate. Cheers, and as always, may your wine glass be full, your heart be light, and your journey be delight.